Dear Tattooed Biker, when I was really young, probably around 5 or 6 years old, my family took a camping trip to Rockport State Park. We were set up next to a lake, doing what families do: fishing, relaxing, and just enjoying the outdoors. My dad, mom, uncle, and I were all on the shore, casting lines and hoping for a bite, and that's when something strange happened. Across that lake, on the opposite shore, my dad spotted a figure, massive, either dark brown or black, just standing there, staring directly at us. It wasn't moving, it wasn't trying to hide. It was just there. Now this thing had to be at least 8 feet tall, maybe more considering the distance. So naturally, my dad thought it was some kind of prank and started yelling at it. I don't remember what he said, but I'll never forget what it said back. It let out this loud, guttural screech. Nothing even remotely human, nothing we could understand, but weirdly enough, it felt like it was talking. Like it knew exactly what it was saying, even if we didn't. By then, the whole family had gathered. My grandparents, my big brother, everyone was just staring at this thing. And for some reason, my parents started trying to mimic these screeches. And it would respond, over and over. This strange back and forth went on for a few minutes, and then it ran. And I don't mean that it just casually walked off. I mean, it took off. On 2 legs, of course, towards the forest. And it was gone in just seconds. Like it had to have been running 25 or 30 miles per hour. No hesitation, no stumbling, just gone. Of course, my brother, Grandpa, and our dog thought chasing it was a great idea. They tried to follow its path and ended up finding a large clump of black hair caught in a barbed wire fence. Was it from that thing? Well, honestly, I'm not sure, but it sure didn't look normal. And somehow we all still spent the night there, in the tents, in the wind, but no one really slept. I still think about that night from time to time. But honestly, stuff like that isn't all that rare in Utah. Personally, I've seen UFOs. My siblings say they've seen skinwalkers. My brother was followed by a UFO once, and I grew up right next to Skinwalker Ranch. I swear we're not a bunch of kooks. Well, okay, maybe a little, but not enough for all of us to make up the exact same thing. I just really wanted to share this story with you and your listeners. I've been a longtime fan of your channel, and it's one of the few places where people can talk about this kind of stuff without being laughed off the internet. Thanks for giving folks like me a space to tell the truth, even when it sounds unbelievable. Signed, Jesse. Dear Tattooed Biker, let me start with a little context. I'm a born and raised Long Islander. Same with my parents. They actually met out east, which, in Islander terms, means the east end of Long Island. To any rich New York City kids, that means the Hamptons, but for the rest of us non-millionaires, it means the North Fork. Now, not to get too geographically confusing, but Long Island is, quite fittingly, a long island. About 90 miles from end to end, and about 3/4 of the way out, it splits into 2 forks. Picture a fish with its mouth open. The North Fork would be the eye, and the Hamptons would be the jaw. And right between the two is Shelter Island, like a smaller fish about to be eaten. Honestly, just Google it. It's very weirdly shaped anyway. My dad's family had a house on Shelter Island. My parents met working summer jobs out there, and well, the rest is history. Shelter Island has always felt magical to me. You can only get there by ferry, and something about crossing makes it feel like you're leaving the world behind you. But the island in summer is very different from the island in winter. In the summer, the population jumps to around 20,000, but in the off-season, maybe 2,000 people live there tops. There are graduating classes with like 14 students. And, get this, people literally dress up as each other for Halloween. I'm telling you now that part might not seem important, but looking back, it makes me wonder just how involved the locals might be in what we saw. I was only about 12 or 13 at the time. My best friend Lauren, now the co-creator of our website, was finally able to come out with me and my family for the weekend, and I was so excited. The only weird thing was, our bathroom was being renovated. The only working one was in the basement, and not like a cozy, finished basement. This was a dank, dark, half-buried space that you could only access by going outside, down a staircase, and then down another set of stairs into the basement itself. Very charming. It was about 10 p.m., and the moon was almost full. So bright that it actually lit the island, which barely has any streetlights. If not for that moonlight, we probably would have passed this thing without ever seeing it, but instead, as we were walking back upstairs, laughing about something dumb probably, we saw it. It was maybe only 10 feet away. Its back was turned, crouched near the shed. We both instantly froze. That kind of freeze where you suck in a sharp breath without even realizing it. That tiny sound we made must have given us away. Its head suddenly snapped around, and its eyes were glowing, a deep blood red. It didn't look angry exactly, more like a wild animal that's been caught off guard and unsure what to do. Kind of like a feral dog sizing us up. And then, without ever breaking eye contact, it slowly rose to its full height. I'd have to guess that it was around 7 feet tall, and it was covered in shaggy black hair. And its legs didn't look human, more like something beastly. We just stood there, locked in this unholy staring contest for what felt like a full minute. Its eyes were like pits of blood. I remember thinking that I could fall into them. And then suddenly, we moved. Screaming, we tore up those stairs, yelling for my parents. We saw a werewolf. We saw a werewolf. My dad was the first to run outside, and we followed. He looked around and shrugged it off, and then went back inside, clearly annoyed. I swear I saw a bush near the shed shift, like something had just moved through it. Now, over the years, I've come up with all kinds of theories. One of them is tied to the native peoples who lived on the island before colonization. A lot of indigenous cultures have legends about shapeshifters, but unlike werewolves, those transformations are usually a choice, not a curse. So maybe it's not a skinwalker. Maybe it's the descendants of the people who conquered this land. Maybe they are cursed, forced to change under the full moon. Maybe that's why so many of them keep to themselves for most of the year. And maybe that's why Shelter Island is so empty for 9 out of 12 months. That's my story anyway, and those are my thoughts. Signed, Ricky. Dear Tattooed Biker, I only recently found your channel, but after spending some time listening to the stories that people have shared, I decided to add my own account to the record. I haven't done much research into cryptids or paranormal encounters, so I honestly have no idea how to classify the thing I saw, and I'd welcome Any ideas? That said, I'll share the experience as clearly as I can. It's relatively uneventful. Just me seeing something strange and doing my very best to stay away from it. But it still sticks with me. And it felt, well, different. Maybe even meaningful somehow. The encounter happened back on February the 2nd, 2016. Sometime between 5 and 8 p.m. in Pullman, Washington. I was living there while working and finishing graduate degrees at Washington State University. I actually remember the exact date, thanks to a strange detail. I write bad poetry as a hobby. I jot phrases down in my phone when they pop into my head. And that particular day I wrote, "I'm afraid to walk alone. Afraid I'll meet the devil on the road." I'd completely forgotten about that line until I started writing this. But now, it gives me chills. Looking back, that might be the weirdest part of the entire story. Like maybe something deeper was at work. Now, Pullman is a small college town surrounded by miles and miles of rolling wheat fields. There aren't any forests. No thick brush, just open land. And a tight-knit population of locals and students. Not much else. No real homeless population. Very few drifters. It's extremely walkable, and I made the same 45-minute walk to and from campus almost every day. For those familiar with the area, I lived on Lamont Street, up on Military Hill. I'd take the bike path down through the valley and walk up Stadium Way into campus. On that particular night, I was walking home, like I always did, in the dark. Something I'd done hundreds of times without even thinking twice. But that night, just as I was nearing the base of the hill, where the bike path climbs up toward Grand Avenue, I saw a figure ahead on the path. It was crouched down, humanoid, around 60 feet away. That part of the trail is very dimly lit. A little light from the road, but the path itself drops just below the street, and the lighting doesn't reach it well. I couldn't see it clearly, but my gut clenched up fast. Something just felt off. As I got closer, maybe 30 or 40 feet away, I stopped. The figure just didn't look right. Its proportions were all wrong. It was far too large to be a person. Its back was arched, too far forward. Its head hung low. I didn't see fur, but I felt like it had fur, if that makes sense. The way it just absorbed the light. No skin, no clothing reflecting anything back. Just this dense, shadowy mass. My brain started flipping through the possibilities. Could it be a person? A man crouched on the trail. If so, then he had to be huge. And why crouch like that, in the dark, all alone? Could it be something else? Something that people don't generally believe in? I couldn't make it make sense. Instinct suddenly kicked in, and I felt the first rush of adrenaline. I called out, "Hey!" maybe 2 or 3 times, just loud enough to let it know that I was there. And it moved. It didn't run, it didn't lunge. It just turned its head. Maybe its body slightly, like it was aware of me now. No, I never saw any eyes. No detail caught the light, just a subtle shift in posture from this crouched, unnatural thing. It was at that moment that I had 2 thoughts battling in my head. 1, I might be witnessing something incredible, and 2, I didn't want to die over it. Survival instinct won over, and I scrambled up the embankment towards the road, crossed to the other side, and walked the rest of the way home with my heart pounding. The height of the hill and the darkness kept me from seeing the path again. I finally got to my apartment, locked the door, and remembered that strange line that I'd written earlier. I'm afraid to walk alone. Afraid I'll meet the devil on the road. Now for the rest of the night I wondered, was I being followed? Was this thing not just a random encounter, but something meant for me? Nothing else has ever happened. No follow-up sightings, no nightmares, nothing. And over time, it just became a weird story that I'd tell friends over drinks. But the details never stopped bothering me. Even if it was a person, it's still strange. What kind of person crouches like that? Silent, motionless, and near total darkness. Halfway up a secluded path, and if it wasn't a person, then what was it? I've even considered the possibility that maybe I hallucinated it. A stressed out grad student snapping under pressure. But deep down, I don't think that's it. So here it is for what it's worth. It really happened, and I still don't know what I saw. Thanks for letting me share. Signed, Will. Dear TB, this summer I spent quite a bit of time camping. I live in Arizona, and the best way to escape the brutal heat is to head north, especially into the Flagstaff area, up near the Mogollon Rim. When I camp, my goal is to get as far away from other people as possible. I bring everything I need: water, toilet setup, the whole thing. So I can truly enjoy nature without the sound of ATVs or nearby campers breaking the peace. I drive a lifted SUV, which lets me reach places that most folks can't, and that helps me score the perfect secluded spot. One trip in particular still has me thinking. We picked a forest road near Ashurst Lake and drove over an old rocky trail for about an hour before finding a quiet spot tucked in the trees beside a dried-up lake bed. It was remote, beautiful, and just eerie enough. A well-worn game trail cut through our sight and across the cracked lake bed. We saw a few wolves the first day, and either deer or elk, I'm not sure which. But once the animals spotted us, they kept their distance. Like they knew that this was our spot now. During the day, I walked around and collected bones, mostly from either deer or elk. I was feeling a little bored and a little morbid, so I strung some of them into a wind chime and hung it outside the tent. A creepy little art project, but it fit the mood out there. That night, I was lying in my tent while my girlfriend and our dog slept. No, I'm not sure what woke me. Maybe I was just restless, or maybe I heard something, and it pulled me out of my sleep, but once I was fully awake, I definitely heard something. There were no usual night sounds, no owls, no crickets, just silence, and then crunch, crunch, crunch. Something was out there, moving through our camp. It had these slow, deliberate, but heavy footsteps, crunching the tall grass as it passed. One step every couple of seconds. No scuffling, no rustling, just those steady, bipedal footsteps. We were miles from anyone. We only saw a few cross-country ATVs earlier in the trip, and they had turned around long before we had found our site. So who or what was walking through our camp? I had a pistol beside me, but I didn't dare move. I didn't want to wake my girlfriend, so I just lay there, barely breathing, waiting to see what would happen. Whatever it was walked right past our tent, never once breaking that slow, heavy rhythm. Then it slowly faded into the woods, step by step, until there was nothing but silence again. The next morning, I told my girlfriend. She was less than thrilled about it. At the time, I thought it might have been a skinwalker, some kind of shape-shifting humanoid, drawn to the wind chime or maybe just curious. But just today I learned about the Mogollon Monster, Arizona's version of Bigfoot, said to haunt the wilderness around Flagstaff. Now I just have to ask, did I really have a run-in with the famous monster? What do you think? And what do your listeners make of it all? Thanks in advance. Signed, Daniel.